right, good morning everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Megan Twentyman, the BDM for Unified Communications here at Blue Chip. The purpose of today's webinar is to have a look at version 20 that is now live, so all the latest information that we have to hand we'll share with you. I am very conscious of time, so I will try to stick to our bite-sized format. We will have a Q&A at the end, and on the webinar with me today I've got Asel, who's our new sales engineer.
Hey everyone, how's it?
Awesome, and he'll be taking us for a bit of a demo shortly, so we'll crack into it. Feel free to use the Q&A to pop your questions in, but we won't be addressing those until we get to the end of the webinar. So just quick agenda for today. Key things we're going to look at is what's new, what's changed, and what's coming with version 20. So I have used Nicholas Perez's slide deck and information along with other information from 3CX to pop this together today, and I have as much insight as what we've been able to get. Asel will do a quick demo in the admin console later on. Then we'll wrap up by looking at the prereqs, what you need to know, the essential bits of information. We'll talk quickly about the upcoming price changes, which is all very vague information at the moment, but more details to come. And then, as I say, we'll wrap up with that Q&A. So version 20 is here, and what's new? So the first big thing obviously is the new operating system. So we've gone from Debian 10 to Debian 12 with version 20. Debian 12 allows 3CX, doesn't allow us, allows 3CX to take advantage of the latest reciprocate engine and the Nginx version. So that obviously just makes everything faster and smoother, those types of things. In terms of that upgrade process, it is not able to be rolled back from. So once you start that upgrade process, you're away and you're moving to version 20. So during that, you go from Debian 10 via Debian 11 up to Debian 12. So it does, take a few minutes. It doesn't take a huge amount of time. Kind of worst case scenario we've heard of is up to an hour, but I haven't heard of anybody in New Zealand taking that long. It's a pretty straightforward process. At the time, for those of us that have been on the 3CX journey for a long time, prepare to say your fond goodbyes to the management console because it is deprecated with version 20, and we all need to learn to embrace the admin console. I'm all the same as you. We know where everything is in the management console. It's familiar, but we'll talk about why those changes happened a little bit later on as well. So with the new SIP engine, it's all about everything being faster, being more immediate. So you're likely to not have any failed transfers. The pickup is much quicker. You can immediately listen in if you're using that functionality, like call centers, for example, use that functionality a lot, or when you're training. The transfer back on busy is more efficient, and it's really designed for those larger installations that 3CX is wanting to focus on. So their sweet spot wants to become that 100 to 1,000 user extensions. Another key thing is the merger of what we call their web services. So that is goodbye management console, hello admin console, and everything comes off your web client. So there's no separate login, it's all there. If you have the user access to get to the admin console, you'll be able to do that directly off your web client. So the web client is the same as version 18, so it is familiar for users. And there's just that one URL, less confusion for everybody. We don't need to be reliant on the welcome email anymore because we're really going to be utilizing that single sign-on. People are setting their own passwords. Now, users create and reset their own passwords. So you'll see I've got there partners beware. A system is only as secure as your weakest password. I would highly encourage you to be talking with your customers if you haven't already. I'm sure you already have, about using a password management solution. If users put a password of password 123, yes, that system can be hacked. If they have admin rights, that is a double whammy. So really think about your weakness, and users with weak passwords are a big thing to consider. So do really think about a password management solution. Obviously at Blue Chip we do have some options available if you do need some advice around that outside of my area, but happy to talk you or put you in contact with the right people. So the admin console is complete. So we know in version 18 we were still flicking between the management console and the admin console as it evolved. The admin console is now complete with version 20. And for those of us that have been on the 3CX journey, the management console was like a familiar blanket or friend. We knew where everything was. We could go and find it. We didn't question any logic around it. For new 3CX partners, they found that really difficult to understand why things were in certain places. And the focus has been on making sure that everything is in a more logical way. And for those of us that have been on this journey for ages, change takes a bit of getting used to. I was looking for something as simple as making our test system display first name, last name, and it took me ages because I just couldn't remember where it was in version 20. But now that I do remember, I'll find it every time. So key things are your DIDs are assigned, your departments are those very powerful parts of the admin console of version 20, your IP phones and all your integrations. I've just taken a really quick snapshot from our test system, which I know is a little bit small on your screens, but it's there. At a glance, you can see your users, you can see whether they're a system owner, whether they're an administrator, you can see things like if they've got two-factor authentication enabled, if they've got Microsoft 365 and synchronization, if they're using the Teams integration, what IP phones they've got. So it's all available at a glance. So it does become more powerful. It's just getting used to that new format. So departments, we've talked about departments going to be turbocharged for version 20, and they really have been. They become the heart of your 3CX system. This is where things like your office hours, your holidays, your time zone, your language settings become really, really important. And that's good for people that have instances that cross time zones, that cross countries. They might have a support desk in another part of the world, and they're looking after that part of the world with a completely different language. So you'll see I've grabbed a couple of screenshots out of there. So things like office hours are really important. I've highlighted in pink where you can change it on a daily basis. Obviously that's for every day. I just highlighted the Monday because why not? It's the most important day of the week. But in yellow you can see that there's an add or clear. So you can add or clear the whole week in advance. And Asel will show you that in the admin console as well. You can see your department name. You can use your language settings. So we would use Australian prompts for here. I know Australian, but it is what it is. And our preferred department language would always be English UK because we speak, I have to say the King's English now. It's so easy to say the Queen's English. The other key thing with departments is that each department can have its own admin. This means that some of those kind of everyday functionalities, putting somebody else into a queue, those types of things can be done. Trunks and system extensions are now added to the departments. So digital receptionists, queues, ring groups, all those kind of things. So you do need to think about the user role that is assigned to people. So user roles were introduced in version 18 update 6, and they become very important with the new departments when we've moved from groups to departments. I've put a URL there. I know you'd love to be able to just go click, but we can't share that URL with you. This takes you through to a great grid that just shows what each user role can and can't do. So it's really important one. I have it bookmarked because I can't always remember what a system admin can do versus department admin, those kind of things. So it is a great resource to be able to use. Queue functionality. So a lot of work has been put into the SIP engine, which in turn makes things like queues and call centers and that type of thing much more powerful. So there's actually a really cool feature, and I've had a few people already ask me, why do we even want this feature? It's actually a highly requested feature, and that's been able to target busy agents with a multi-line queue strategy. And people go, but why would you do that? They're already on a call. Great scenario is Megan's talking to her sister on the phone during work time. Oops, naughty Megan. But however, that call queue is backing up, and 3CX can see that I'm actually on a non-queue call. I'm on a call to my sister, or maybe I'm on an internal call or something talking to a colleague, and I can still be polled. So I can see, oh, there's queues backing up, jump on what's important. Because at the end of the day, what's important? It's our customers. So this is actually a really cool feature. You do need to enable the accept multiple calls option, which up until now most people wouldn't have been using, but it's something to think about, and it is a great function that's been added into the queues. The other key thing that we've been on the journey of the development of version 20 is the new Windows soft phone. So this is the one that's downloadable from the Microsoft Store. It is designed to replace the legacy Windows soft phone, which is the soft phone that just wouldn't never die. People love that receptionist drag and drop feature, and whilst it's not in the soft phone just yet, the receptionist view is on the roadmap and something that will be coming back. So we expect to see this Windows soft phone downloadable from the Microsoft Store that is going to replace the desktop app. It will get deprecated in due course, and also the legacy soft phone app. So there's been a lot of questions about deployment. So Nicholas on his most recent webinar was talking about using Intune, etc. for that. We're waiting to get some more information on the suggested way, because we know a lot of organizations don't allow their staff to have easy access to the Microsoft Store. It's a lot more reliable. It's got some great headset integrations, and yes, there is a Mac version of it coming soon. Okay, the 1980s are calling. Yes, I was alive and I remember the pain of faxing. Believe it or not, this is a technology that just doesn't want to end. It's very popular in the medical environment, although that has lessened since COVID. We've seen the fax starting to die out a little bit more. Faxes are received in via an email. We don't send out faxes, okay? But there's some new features in version 20, so some cleanup options, which means that your backup size is going to be smaller. It's reducing the disk usage, that kind of stuff, and you can create a fax extension. So believe me, we still get questions about this, and for younger people, some of them don't even know quite what a fax machine is. My own children are good examples of that. The other thing is the troubleshooting tool. This is looking at quality. So have you got some packet loss happening, those types of things. And it will actually identify where that is happening. So what leg is the problem? Do you need to be talking to your SIP provider, that kind of stuff. This is easily configurable from each user's extension just by clicking on the little ellipsis and choosing the monitor connection quality. And you can set a time frame. So the default time frame is 1 day, but you can do it for 2 or 3 days. And at the end of it, you get a report. That's also available from the event log. So it helps you to isolate what is actually going on and then be able to fix it. So a tool is only as good as giving you advice. You actually need to follow through on the fixing it part. The other key things that 3CX have committed to with the what's new is the APIs and making those more readily available. So they've already released a couple. So there's the RoutePoint API, capturing calls. It's using C# code. It reduces the need for using the call flow designer for projects. Some little examples that they've released already is things like being able to analyze the caller ID and assign to the specific agent. So I call my insurance broker, for example, and it sends me off to my specific agent because it's looked at my caller ID and they know my history and they know what they're working on for me. So, you know, those little things can be really, really useful. They also have a client-side API, which is for real-time information, being able to update a user's status, control calls, those types of things. And they have committed to releasing more of those APIs. So we'll see what's coming. All right, two-factor authentication. Obviously, security is really, really important to 3CX, and they have worked very, very hard on making their product one of the most secure out there. Two-factor authentication can now be enabled for all users, as done as part of creating the user. You can use Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. It's also really good if anybody's using a public computer to log into your 3CX. So obviously that's a risk factor, but I would highly encourage you to enable 2FA for all of your users. So now starting to look at some of the things that have changed. So the way that the bridges are configured, The Teams configuration is actually the same as version 18, but it does need to be reconfigured in version 20. I know it's a little bit annoying, but we'll see in the roadmap that redevelopment with the new API is coming. Things like FXS gateways and hot desking were originally slated to not make the original release of version 20. They are in and they are working. Asel just released a great blog post on hot desking because that is a everyday feature. He'll show you where to find that in the admin console shortly. They have updated the transcription, so they're now using Google's Speech API V2, which allows for full recordings transcription. You will need to reconfigure your existing configurations if you were using that. There is even a profanity filter because some people have those little potty mouths, so very important. The department office hours. So office hours used to be at a global level. They are now at the department level. So this is a really important one. So you can have different departments having different office hours. So especially for shift workers and those kind of things can be really important. If you're upgrading from 18 to 20 and you're not actually taking advantage of the groups in version 18, that will actually be inherited into the one department that will be created in version 20. But you can kind of set that up and start to use those departments. The DIDs are assigned directly at the destination in version 20. So that's another thing that's changed and will inherit some of those office hours and things as well. So in terms of call handling, all of the things start to get inherited from the department office hours. Each individual user can have different office hours. So say you've got a part-timer that works certain hours and has different break times to everybody else, that kind of stuff. So you can customize those parts, but at the sort of more department level, things like your call queues and ring groups can have the in-office hours. You know, what do you want to happen? Do you want it to divert to another extension, go to a voicemail box? What do you want it to actually do? Break times, if for example all your staff take a break at one time, which is highly unusual, but say they did, what do you want to happen with the calls? And you can have its own voicemail message as well. So these are making life easier, and you can have it for your out of office hours. So say it's a public holiday or what have you. For your holidays, you have an annual shutdown at Christmas. What do you want to happen to your calls? Maybe it's going off to a mobile phone, for example, or it's just playing a message saying we are closed, come back in 2 weeks. So just see what you want to do there. Call routing is another key thing. And this all comes from we're used to doing everything at a global level, at a SIP trunk level. We're now doing it at the department level. So it's just things to think about when you're configuring your SIP, your caller ID, the parameters, the outbound rules. You can have friendly names for your DIDs, which replaces your old inbound rule names. So just make them logical so that everybody understands your logic. You know, I'm glossing over a lot of this because otherwise we would be here for a very, very long time, and I'm conscious of time, but we will dig into these things in more detail in future webinars. So user roles were introduced in version 18 update 6. They become mandatory from version 20, i.e. you must have a system owner. So it's really good time to check that everybody actually has the correct role assigned to them. So existing customized roles will get reset when you move up to version 20 because they need to actually fit within the parameters of the roles that are there. We've got a cross-department view, so users within the same department can see each other's presence, and you can decide whether they can see other departments or not. You know, some users have specific roles and they can be given rights to other departments to do things as well. So phone provisioning. So this all started changing in the more recent updates of version 18. So we've still got RPS provisioning, which is your zero touch provisioning, simply adding your model and your MAC address and, you know, plug it in and away you go kind of thing. You've got your plug and play, which keeps all your data local. Same as previous config, and you need to have your SBC. Just while I change slides, I'm going to cough, so I'm just going to mute myself for a second. Sorry about that, everybody. The other key things are the recordings. So the archiving can be done immediately after a call is completed, and that can be really helpful in a failover type situation, making recordings available to users. The reporting, so we all know that the whole point of this is to improve the reporting, give us more accurate data, and there's a lot more to come with that. 3CX have already indicated they will be integrating with a product called Grafana to be able to extract that data and manipulate it more effectively, and we're waiting for more information on that. And that plan is to create more visual reports and allow you to customize the data that you need to do. Data is important to each organization for a different reason. Troubleshooting. So notifications go to the system admins. You can also set that up optionally for system owners or any other email as well. So that can be really useful if your system admin's on holiday, for example. The event log is much improved and has data that gives you real actionable things to take care of. The system health is directly available off the dashboard when you zip into the admin console, and it makes you less reliant on basic troubleshooting info. So the support info package is still available, but you shouldn't need it as much as what you may have done in the past, although in the more recent editions we haven't needed a lot of that. Wireshark, if it's needed, it's still there. Database maintenance is important, and being able to reboot the OS, that's really important as well. So it's a lot of stuff coming through to just make system admins' lives that much easier. So what's coming on the roadmap for update 1? They have already announced before version 20 went live that scheduled reporting would be back in update 1. Hotkeys on the soft phone will be coming. The PBX delivering the audio, configurable outbound parameters, generic trunks when using hosted by 3CX. So they actually took that away when you went from version 18 to version 20. So if you're using a non-interop SIP provider and the hosted by 3CX service, wait to upgrade from version 18 to version 20. It has caught a couple of people out. Otherwise, switch to a interop SIP provider such as Uphone or 2Talk, etc. We already talked about fax. Yes, the 80s are alive and well. Active calls view, so that's the dashboard view. So that's that visual overview of what's happening with your system that will be coming back as well. And bridge presence settings. So bridges have carried through to version 20, but the presence settings aren't actually working fully at this point, but they will be back very soon. We don't have an exact date on update 1, but I don't think it'll be that far away now that version 20 has been out for about 3 weeks. So what's coming in future updates? So I don't have an update version of when this is coming, but they will have an on-premise version of their 3CX meeting for video conferencing for added security. Group SMS will be coming. They're going to rework that Teams integration with the latest Teams API from Microsoft. More APIs will be made available to partners. Wallboards, more views, configurable, an outbound wallboard. Apparently they're going to use Grafana to help with that as well. So really excited and looking forward to seeing that coming through. The switchboard or receptionist view. So that will allow for faster handling of calls and transfers. And, you know, I've got everything crossed. I've been told that that drag and drop's coming. So we really need that. Each department will be able to have its own phone book and its own blacklist. And they already hinted a long time ago that their own CRM as well, but we don't have any timeframes on that. All right, you've heard a lot from me. I need to have a little cough when I go on mute. So I'm actually going to stop sharing in a second and hand over to Asel, who's going to show you through the admin console, and then he'll hand back to me when he's finished that, and I'll wrap up the webinar. So thanks for bearing with me with the remnants of my head cold and this bit of a cough, but I'm going to hand over to Asel now. You might be on mute, Asel. Can't hear you.
Yes. Hey everyone, I'm Asel, the new UC sales engineer. Can you all hear me and see the screen?
Yep, we're all good to go.
All right, awesome. So let me just Jump back in. So what you're looking at here is the People tab in the web client. This is what your average user will see after they log in, so very similar to V18 thus far. As Megan mentioned, a lot of work has gone into combining the management console and the web client into a one-stop shop. So if you have system admin privileges, you'll see that little cog there with the admin writing there. So once you click on that, no need to log in. That brings you straight into the admin console. So the first thing you'll probably notice is that there's no visuals about the system status, but yes, it is coming in a future update alongside of a couple other things that Megan mentioned, like call reporting. You can see some system info here, some troubleshooting info, and you'll see on the left you've got your menus, which should look a bit more familiar. On your top right, you've got your profile picture. You can use that to switch your status. As Megan mentioned, you can also use the monitor connection quality to do a packet capture for troubleshooting. That's a new feature in V20. So let's start jumping through these menus. So going into users, you'll see we've got the black caps here. Stephen Fleming has become a 3CX administrator. And we're going to go ahead and add in a new user. You can change the extension. So if you've got a sales team starting and you want them to start with the number 2, you can do that. Maintenance, you can do that. And then you'll just go ahead, plug in these values, give them a role, and then assign them to a department. As Megan mentioned, the departments are a big upgrade from groups, and we'll go into that soon. And next, also, and a big part of this is also 2FA. So if I go back here, and you'll see that button here, if I want to enable 2FA, that'll enable for all users. And actually, I've got a little, I noticed a couple of questions here, so I'm just going to pull up the tab which I have on hand to show you this. So if you do enable 2FA, hopefully you can see my screen. You can see my screen okay? Just give me a quick thumbs up if you can. Yes, essentially you'll get this this pop-up when you log in again, just asking you to download an authenticator app and then push in the code when you sign in as a user. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna launch back into the share. Alrighty. All good, you can see the screen. Cool, thank you. And now it's gonna keep scrolling through, going into voice and chat. So this is where you now add your SIP trunk. So if I go into add in a SIP trunk, I'm gonna switch the country over to NZ, and you can see we've got our friends over at Uphone there. Now that's where you plug in your trunk number, your auth ID, auth passwords, add in your DIDs over here. Then you've got options for reformatting your incoming and outgoing caller ID over here at the under voice and chat at the SIP trunk level. Alrighty, so going over into phones. As you might have seen, we've got a hot desking blog post which I just put out recently. Definitely have a look into that. That's been included into update 1 of V20. Into the release of V20. You've got a few phones there, just this pretty standard. Got your outbound rules section. Then going into departments. So let's say that you wanted to add in a new department. You can give it a prompt set in a different language. And you can use the prompts and a language across different departments. So you can have, let's say if you had office in a different region, you can do that quite easily. And once you've created that department, you can go ahead and select it and assign a time zone, and then have different office hours across each department. So with that night workers example that Megan used, that's a great example of this. You can go ahead and add in break hours. So if I wanted to add in a lunch break, I can do that. That's going to add in, it in, and if I want to clear this across, then I'll just go ahead and I'll clear one of these to clear out any of these time schedules. And then you can go and add in your office holidays as well, all pretty straightforward. Going into call handling, you can add in your ring groups and your queues over here. Let's say that I'm going to add in a queue. I can give it a name, a department, and on the destinations, I can send that to a particular user. if there's no answer, I can actually forward that to an outside number, or a digital reception. So there's a bunch of different options that you can play around with. Let's say you're on break, or your queue's on break. You can angle that to a different destination as well, and you've got announcements that you can play or voicemails, depending on what status you are in. So these are all very handy. Jumping into the event log, you've got a bunch of, this has been improved and added a few more features on there. You've got notification settings that you can go into as well. Backup, integrations, you've got CRM and a couple of other ones there too. You've got your security settings over here under advanced. And then you've got your system where you can view more details about your licensing, etc., etc. So if there's anything that you want any particular guidance on, you can always send us an email at ucsupport@bluechipit.co.nz. I'm just going to stop sharing now and then hand back to Megan. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome, thanks, Asel. I'm just going to reshare my screen. All right, confirming you can see my screen, Asel? Excellent. All right, so let's keep zooming through. I am conscious of time. So one of the key things is to think about upgrading from version 18 to version 20. So the prereqs for this is read the launch blog of version 20 and the upgrade checklist and make sure that you can confirm everything is in place. You must be on version 18 update 9. It is the requirement to move through an upgrade. You must set your system owner. So that was introduced in update 6 of version 18. And whilst it was mandatory, it wasn't fully enforced. It needs to be before you go up to version 20 or you will be locked out. And it must have its own unique email. Machine hardware specs have increased with version 20. We'll take a look at those in a moment. For on-prem deployments, you must have split DNS, which is mandatory for version 20. And for your departments, you need your hours and your holidays and your time zone and your rights and your roles and your visibility and everything set up. There was a really interesting interview recently by one of the 3CX US staff, interviewed by one of the big partners in the US. And he hinted that the system specifications may actually decrease in future updates. It's obviously something they're very conscious of, but I don't think the system specs that are required are outrageous in this day and age. So just looking at those hardware specs, it's a minimum of 2 cores. It's very long time since we haven't seen units with more than 2 cores, a minimum of 2 gig of memory and a minimum of 5 gig of available disk space. 3CX version 20 has been tested on the supported cloud providers only. They can't test on everybody, so they've tested on the supported. And a reminder to not modify the repositories or your upgrade will fail. There is a blog that was released, I can't remember if it's end of December or the beginning of January, that looked at reasons why an upgrade may fail. These system specs, you always want to overspec, not underspec, and that's just part of the IT industry that we've all been in for a long time. As I mentioned, split DNS is an absolute requirement. You need to be able to resolve that FQDN externally and internally. An internal DNS server or a firewall that can do hairpin NAT is essential. There are some guides for popular brands up on the 3CX website already. If it's a smaller install, you might want to consider migrating that across to the cloud. So, hosted by 3CX, which is on DigitalOcean for ANZ region, is a really good option for that as well. The other thing is your department hours. So we already mentioned this. They will replace your global hours. If you've just got global hours and it's, not lots of different groups, they'll just be inherited into the new department. Okay, so just a reminder about that version 18 update 9, that is paving the way. It's ensuring that you've got your system owner set. That was introduced back in update 6, as I mentioned. It's got the most up-to-date VoIP provider templates in there. And obviously you're going to be upgrading your system as you go. Other key things is technical trainings. So in November, 3CX did release the new basic and advanced exams and the new materials. However, there will be some changes very soon for version 20, and we're just getting clarity on exactly when everybody's going to be reset. So if people held an intermediate certification, they will reset back down to basic already. And if people had advanced, they're still sitting as advanced. We believe those are going to be reset. When we get more details on that, we will share, but Asel is now advanced certified. He's getting ready for being able to deliver the technical trainings next quarter. We're just waiting for that guidance from 3CX on final dates around that. It's really important with everything changing so much to stay up to date via our monthly newsletters. There's a newsletter going out, actually it's gone out today, and we have our weekly newsletters, we have our LinkedIn group, etc., and we really do appreciate your attendance on webinars like today's one, which I know is a little bit longer than normal, but you'll agree there was a lot of information to get through. So we're now going to jump to the Q&A, and I'm going to try and answer as many of those questions as I can. So feel free to throw questions into the Q&A, and we'll see if we can get through as many of those as possible. Let me just find them. Give me a second. Okay, what are the long-term plans with the Windows 32 per client? So I can't speak on behalf of 3CX. What 3CX have announced is that the Windows installer will be coming. We believe that will be with update 1. They have said that an enterprise license is required for the Windows edition. So customers that are on a pro license and upgrade from 18 to 20 once the Windows installer is available will automatically be updated to an enterprise license till the end of their term. At the renewal point, they will be required to renew as an enterprise license. That is all that has publicly been announced and all I have been made aware of from 3CX. I do know globally that the majority of installations are on Linux, but there are specific requirements by certain customers to be on Windows, and 3CX are as aware of that as everybody else in the industry. Yes, 2FA will definitely help with those weak passwords, so we're definitely happy about that. Is 2FA an option for user passwords in 3CX? You mean instead of passwords, I assume? So each user still needs a password. You do need a password and a valid, unique email address to be able to access the web client. I encourage people to enforce the 2FA, and we will be enforcing that ourselves. We already use multi-factor authentication to access our machines, but 2FA will be coming into play for our company as well. Any idea when an ETA, when you can receive a secondary queue call while you are on a queue call? So that's the multi-call programming. So if people are in more than one queue, that can actually be programmed by being able to accept multiple calls. But let us know the exact scenario, Miriam, and we're happy to work through with you what that looks like. Just flick us an email and we'll help you there. Okay, Windows Soft Phone has TAPI support. Yes, TAPI came back to the desktop app as well a while ago, and it is part of the new Windows Soft Phone. TAPI is very important to a lot of people, so that is good. Version 20 is live now. If you don't need things that are coming back in update 1, you can start upgrading small customers. I highly encourage everybody to be using your demo systems to get familiar with version 20, because once you upgrade, there is no rollback. So you don't want to get into a situation where you can't find things and you can't manage it. So do think about that. There's no rush. There has been no announcement by 3CX of when version 18 update 9 will be deprecated. They are running 2 versions alongside each other at the moment. Version 20 and version 18 update 9 are both considered current. We will get a timeline and a roadmap soon on what that deprecation will look like and what's coming in the future. So we're eagerly awaiting that, just like everybody else. So presence in the bridge, no, that is missing. Again, another reason you should wait till update 1 to upgrade for that. That will be back, is what we've had indicated. So we'll obviously have to wait for the final update 1 because things change. It's a development. But if you need your presence across the bridge, wait. Don't upgrade to version 20 yet. Confirming that with update 1 we'll be able to use our own SIP trunks with hosted by 3CX. That is correct. We weren't actually informed that that had been taken away for version 20 until our first customer hit that, and then it was announced, and that was purely just because they needed to lock everything down as people started migrating to version 20, and we've seen quite a lot of movement already. There is no rush, so just take your time on that, and wait for that to come back. Can you have customer-wide holidays? I assume you mean instance-wide holidays. So each instance is treated separately. So yes, you can have the holidays set up as Asel showed in the queues or the ring groups, and in the departments. So you'd set that at the department level. So for example, Christmas Day, you'd set that as a company-wide holiday. Is Blueship going to be doing classroom-based 3CX training anytime soon? Yes, as soon as we get those final exams from and materials from 3CX. It's a little disingenuous to take people offline for 2 days and then say a month later you've got to do it again. So we're very conscious of that. We're very conscious of people's time, and being offline is money. So as soon as we have that, we will advise, but we have been told it's very, very close. We expect to be running those trainings both online and in person during Q2 of this year. Are we better off to wait for the test to be updated or do it now? I would wait, Graham. Don't redo your test just yet. Let's wait for the version 20 stuff to come. Can you confirm that in version 20 Stun is only supported via a custom template? All devices using Stun will need a custom template to continue to operate. So Stun is a technology that 3CX have been trying to get rid of for a long time now. Don't get Nicholas Perez started on it. He puts it right there with the legacy softphone. I believe that is correct. That's what I have been told. We are encouraging everybody to be using the SBCs. So you can do that via a standalone SBC or via the router phones. So for the router phones, the T4s from Yealink, T5s from Yealink, a huge number of the Fanville phones and some of the SNOM models can have that router on board, so that you can avoid that requirement for Stun. So Stun is just not reliable enough, and that's why the SBC was introduced back in version 16. So this is not something new, and they are very clear that that will be going away. They have not stated a date when Stun support will end, but Nicholas has made it very clear on multiple webinars that it will be going away. No, it is definitely not mandatory to move from version 18 to version 20. At the moment, both version 18 update 9, and I'm very clear that it is update 9, and version 20 are the current versions. Any idea on forced updates? So all that has been publicly announced is that a 4 to 6 month transition period, which is exactly the same as what we had when we went from version 16 to version 18. This is not something new for 3CX. We will get a deprecation guideline in due course, and we will obviously share that out to you. 3CX promised all partners a 15% cashback to be paid in 2023. It is coming. I have been told that they are working on that. I do not have a date of when it is coming. They didn't reset partner targets until mid-February, which was a month later than normal. It's normally done like the first week of January because they don't have a big holiday break like we do. And that actually enabled some partners to move up a partner level for January and February and get extra discount before they got dropped back afterwards. So it is coming. I have asked for a timeline on that. I have also asked how that will be delivered. We understand it will cut the distribution channel out, which is disappointing, but our focus is on making sure that that 15% rebate is delivered to the partners that it is valid for. So that will be coming. Will existing groups convert to new departments automatically? Yes, each group will become its own department when you upgrade, so that's absolutely fine. Just make sure you adjust the office hours appropriately for each department. They'll inherit the global global office hours from version 18. Can users of the legacy 3CX softphone continue using it? Absolutely. Half my team uses it because they love the drag and drop functionality, and it can still be used in version 20. That has been confirmed. Once we get a deprecation timeline on that, once that new receptionist functionality goes into the new softphone, then we'll have a more idea of what's happening there. Are any more Yealink phones going to be enabled to be router phones? Not that I'm aware of at this stage. So currently it's the T4s and the T5s. T3s just don't actually have enough power. Most of them don't have dual gigabyte and enough power on them to start with. So I'm not expecting to see that drop down into the T3s, but you know, your common everyday T43U can do it. So that's as much as we know at the moment, but obviously those discussions happen between the hardware vendor and 3CX. We're constantly in contact with Yealink as well. More excited about the fact that they're bringing out lower end phones with Wi-Fi on, to be perfectly honest. Those are the ones we're looking forward to. Is there a way to initiate a call via the command line with the new Windows softphone? I believe that's coming, Trevor. I don't think it's there yet. I'll need to check on that. Could you just do me a favor and flick me an email, just so that I don't lose that for my next conversation with 3CX, and I will check on that one for you and come back to you around that. Okay, sorry, there's still more questions coming in, so bear with me as I try and get through them all. Yes, the 3CX website does say the T4s are available as router phones. It actually says from the T46U above, but it actually is the T43U and above when you log into the article. All the details are there, and we have customers using those constantly. So just make sure you're on the correct firmware, which is listed on the 3CX website as well. If you need help with that, just reach out to us and we'll assist. Can the new softphone be downloaded as an exe file outside of the Microsoft Store? No. So what Nicholas Perez has suggested is that using Intune to deploy that out will be the way to go. I don't know much about Intune. As you will know, I'm not the technical person, but I have asked for more details on what the recommendations would be around that for global deployment across organizations. And when I get that information, I will share that via the newsletters. Will there be an updated app that will work with DECT phones, i.e. you have to use the V16 client now? So DECT phones came back in several updates ago for both version 18 and version 20. So not 100% sure what you're meaning there, Craig. Please reach out to us with any concerns that you have around that. You're obviously having an issue, so please let us know how we can help with that. But DECT deployment via the admin console came into version 18 and is in version 20 with no issues. All the common DECT units are working perfectly fine. So reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help. UC support at bluechipit.co.nz can assist you. Just need to know the models, the firmwares that you've got. Check that your base station is on the up-to-date firmware. For that. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second and see if there's any last questions. Thank you so much for those that are sticking with us. This is a much longer webinar than normal. Obviously, a lot of questions. If you do have more questions, just feel free to drop them through to us on uc@bluechipit.co.nz and we'll come back to you with the latest information that we have available. It doesn't look like there's any more questions flying in. So I'm going to wrap up the webinar and actually end the webinar. Thank you so much for your attendance today. We really appreciate that. Feel free to throw your questions at us. Make sure you read the latest updates, which has got a lot of the links to the bits that we've mentioned today. The recording will be made available in the next 24 hours for you as well. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon.